from the Sydney studios in Australia, as Hawk so rightly pointed out. If you didn't know, Revolution Radio has a chat room, and we're in there right now, and Dave is on his way, and you can be there too. Simply go to freedomslips.com, and you can chat and listen from there, all free on the line. Check out our website, shinysideout.net, for more info, and also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Now, there are heaps of ways to listen to the station. If you live in Kentucky, tune in to WZZR 101.3 FM. If you're anywhere else in the entire world, you can listen via one of these apps. There's Revolution Radio, there's TalkStream Live, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Speaker.com, iHeart, Live365, and our very own Shiny Side Out app. Got to catch your breath here. So many ways to listen. At home, you can listen on a Grace Tabletop Digital Audio radio, or driving around in a GM motor vehicle with the receiver-enabled radio as well. And these are all revolutions in radio, guys. Remember when you had to actually have a radio? We are pleased to let you know that the station has introduced dedicated dial-to-listen numbers. Okay, available 24/7 and with immediate effect in case you find yourself with no access to a computer. And the numbers are as follows. Studio A, which is the one we're in right now, is 712-432-6958. That number again is 712-432-6958. And Studio B, 716-748-0112. If you would like a CD of our last year's shows, and I'm sure you do, check the station's website for details. You can actually order them there. I think that's a brilliant service. Thanks, Hawk. And the number to call in, like this is into our show, if you're in the United States of America, is in fact 347-688-2902. If you have anything to say, add, or maybe even correct, happy to talk to you. 347-688-2902. Or if you're using Skype, you can simply add Freedom Screen. One word, Freedom Screen. That's 4 E's in Freedom Screen. Once again, Solaris had an awesome show with guest Quinn Tostado. And yes, it's all happening on the line. Dave, how has your week been?
On the line. I love that quote, Mick. I couldn't let it go. Yeah, I thought that movie about Google and what's his name, tremendously funny.
I thought so too.
Yeah. So when you said on the line, it just took me to that. It's you know what? Great movie. Did I have a great week? Yeah, I did. And I've been speaking to a whole bunch of really cool people, and they know who they are. And thank you so much for all of your conversations. It comes up. I don't know if there's anyone who believes the real story of MH370 at all. I don't believe anyone actually believes any of it, because they would have found it by now, surely. And it was comical. I had a long discussion yesterday with some good friends, and during the week, I have to say that remember last week, Mickey, we invited our hosts. But no, I'll get it right. Our listeners. Invited the other ones. There's other people involved in there. So I invited our listeners to contact us with any questions or what have you, and they all know who they are as well. And I got back to as many as I could. I'm sorry if I missed out anyone, but I surely will. If you're having trouble maybe with email or something, you can look up. Mecky and I have a group and an identity in Facebook. You can also just find us on Twitter. Just look for the 3 words Shiny Side Out. That's all you need to use, and you'll come across us straight away. So. And there are blogs to be found. Both Dave and I have blogs. We have my blog is called Mecky69. Actually, it's Mecky69.com. It's my new domain, Mecky69.com. Awesome. There are actually links to this show. I've also posted some materials from the show, but you will also find my recipes for oxtail stew, for one. So if you want to come to that blog and then go back to our shinysideout.net page, that would be awesome, guys. So just feel free. That's where Dave and I leave our thoughts. Dave has a blog. All right. So if you really want to know what we think about and how we see the world when you don't hear us, that's the perfect opportunity. If you really want to know what I think, follow me on Facebook. So there you go. Happy to. Boy, oh boy. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and they said, "Oh, Dave, I'm sorry, I had to hide your posts on my wall." Okay. I said, "Well, I'm not posting to your wall. I'm just posting my own stuff on my own wall, and you just seeing what I'm up to. Yeah, I had to hide that. Whatever. Yeah, just be quiet. Stop talking. It's like
shut up.
Yeah, shut up. That's the shut up tactic of debunking. Yeah, shut up. Just shut up. It was very funny because they're a good friend of mine, and they really are a good friend, like a real good friend. I've known them in reality. I've known them, and they said it's just too much. And I realized, I looked back through the stuff I posted, and I was like, oh, I've been quite politically active in my posts against our current government, just for pointing out all of their mistakes. And you shouldn't have to have that many things to point out. And I think it's all being let down. So, and like what happened like this week, Meki? We had a siege.
Yeah, this is actually there's a lot of few odd things I want to share with you guys on that. But let's go through the week in a I guess a little bit of a flash here. So there was a siege in Australia, which you all have heard about because I actually got my updates from BBC. So I'm sure you guys. In fact, the very first person to tell me about this siege was our very own Dave here. So. And then the guys at work asked me, because I was in a meeting when it happened. I shouldn't laugh, but it's just funny. And so whoa. So which news outlet did you go to? I said, I don't have a news outlet. I have my sources. And they go, oh, it's always good to be mysterious that way, right?
Yeah. Hey, Meki, very same thing happened to me, right?
Right.
Talk about yours, and I'll jump in.
Oh no, that was it. That was it.
Right.
That's all I had to say on that.
So my sources were sending me information on it, and I knew more of the detail through all of the sources sending me info. The next thing that happens is my boss, the CEO of the company I work for, says, Dave, can you put the TV on in the meeting room because I want to see what's going on? I said, you mean with the siege? And he looked at me like, what? You know about that? I said, okay, there's one guy, it's in Lint Cafe, there's 13 plus people being held hostage, blah, blah. I just ran through the list of all the facts that we knew so far. The buildings have been evacuated. They've put their city emergency plan in place, all of that stuff. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, thanks. Let me know if there's anything new.
Don't need the TV no more.
That's right. Because that would have wasted, at least half an hour of his time. And in that small 5-minute block, I gave him everything and all the updates and everything was going on.
Now take a step back here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is just Dave talking to his boss here, right? Obviously, if you follow our site and we update it as much as we can, but so the news, as we know them, have now fundamentally changed. It is the individual that delivered the news. In fact, on that, another thing that I think was Channel 7 or Channel 9, I can't recall here in Australia, what they did is they put up this ad just before the news feed. They actually said, if you are anywhere near like an interesting scene or something is happening, film it with your smartphone. Mm-hmm. But please put it in landscape, right? So they're giving instructions. And so what this obviously means is that everybody has now become a newscaster, a news reporter, a journalist. You know why a journalist is called a journalist? I tell you why.
Nicky, please tell me.
I will. So back in the olden days, before we had TV and even before radio, even before the telegraph, people would go to interesting places, like wars. There would be war correspondents, right, or war journalists, and what they do is they write a journal of the events, and they would correspond. Via letters with the home country or the home newspaper outlet or whatever it might be. So that's how you get correspondence. They actually used to write letters and get answers, and that's how we used to get the news. Or they write journals, which they would also post. There you go. Just in case you wanted to know.
Well, that sounds like the olden days, Mickey.
It is the olden day, but we are there again because now we have our online journals. We're corresponding with each other online, on the line. We are on the line. We're consistently and almost without fail corresponding with each other. We're collaborating. This is again, this show is no different. Right now, my screen. This is what my screen looks like. I've got Skype open here. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the show notes in the middle. And I'm also looking at the chat room here for freedomslips.com. So these are the media. So Dave and I are chatting over here, and I'm chatting to the guys in the chat room. And I also have my script. So this is the new reality, I think, of media. I think.
Like Mickey said, I've actually got my smartphone here, where people text me during the show, I've got my live feed, like Meggy said. We've got the show's chat room. We've got our chat between ourselves. We've got the script, and I've got another window open looking for any instantaneous news that might come through on my Twitter feed. So I follow all the big news places as well, and it's this is it. Some of the news, some of the things that I was able to pick up first during this week were from people living in the city. They said they've closed off, I heard shots, or or they've closed this thing off, or what it is. Why is the public transport off? Why is all of that stuff? And they're asking questions, and this is the feed, and it begins. You can paint a picture of the whole story. If only there was something like that on Mars, because of all of that stuff that comes up, Mekki, with everyone says, well, what do you think of Mars? Well, it's red, I presume. I don't know. It's a red planet. What else do we know? Only what we're being told by never a straight answer themselves.
However, if you listen to Dave and I here, if you do, and you should, and you are now, so that's good. Oh, that rhymes. How nice. You know that there are other things happening on Mars. There are other things going on that we don't quite know about, and officially at least, we had jump rooms, with the discussion on other things. So again, this has become the real media outlet. I mean, the real news. I mean, it used to be that people would publish these things, and some would be correct, some would be incorrect, and through the filter of all of it, you build your own world picture, as it were. These days, the world picture that they want you to have, the ominous they, them, the elite, the people that pull the strings with the money and the power and so forth, you know who they are. They give you whatever you need to know. Well, sorry, they give you whatever they need you to know. Okay, so
that's right,
and that's
they
how
need you to know stuff. They'll tell you.
Yeah, and this is in fact a perfect segue to what we're going to discuss with you today, but we won't go into that quite yet.
Yeah.
But
we're doing it right now. We're doing it right now to you.
Correct. That is correct. So what Freedom Slips and Revolution Radio afford us, and the other stations as well. Don't get me wrong. We're not the only outlet. I think this is the best one because I have not been censored here. Not one single word has gone through any committee and told us what we can and cannot bring to the air. Of course, we don't swear. That's just common sense, because then you give the powers that be the levers they need to get you off the air, right? So. But you don't need to swear. You don't even need to be swear to be funny. But the point here is that this is a great forum, all right? This particular station, and we can say what we want, and you have the freedom to listen or not listen. And in fact, you have the freedom to interact with us. I mean, how many news outlets can you actually dial into when they give you the 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock news?
Well, not
a lot, right?
None of those.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, sorry. But I do want to just, Dave, if you don't mind, I want to spend a couple of moments on the Sydney siege because it made such headlines. Just very briefly, there's some very odd things going on with the gentleman who actually, with the person that perpetrated that particular crime. Two people, well, 3 people were killed. The kidnapper, or I guess I don't want to call him terrorist.
No. Let's say that 3 people died as a result of the experience.
Yes.
All right. I don't think we can lay blame to the. We can add causality to one, but the other two. Sorry, we can't say who actually fired the shot.
No, correct. Having said that, if that particular person had not, in fact, undertaken the siege, nobody would have died. But that's different discussions. But what we do not want to do, though, is group this into the terrorist category.
It's not.
Yes, because he was acting, as far as we know, entirely alone. And there's some very strange things with that, though. Okay, so I heard that he had just been acquitted of accessory to murder charges. The murder victim, his wife, and the actual murder suspect, his girlfriend, who is not acquitted, but also out on bail. He had scores of sex offenses against him, and violent crime as well. He was allowed to have a shotgun, and the barrister, or QC even, that defended him came at $8,000 an hour. 8,000 legal aid, apparently.
Yep.
Right? So this was provided to him by the government.
Queen's Counsel is the QC. It's the highest ranking person in a courtroom other than the judge.
Correct. So it's a bit like the English law system where you have got barristers and that do not go into court, and you got QCs that do. Or I might get that wrong. Solicitors. Anyway, it doesn't matter. QCs is the highest ranking lawyer you can get in court. Now, that's odd. That's strange that a person like that. I mean, he claimed political asylum some years ago. We gave it to him in Australia, so he lived here and has abused that ever since. He hasn't worked a day in his life while he was in Australia. And the Iranians have been trying to extradite him from us ever since. Now they're saying, well, you should have done that. And we say, yeah, well, hindsight is 20/20, and we have to judge each case by its merits. Fair enough. However, this person clearly has a criminal bent with all the offenses against him, and yet it was still allowed to happen, in my mind, what we saw. And it's just very strange. People talk about, do we have enough gun control? Do we have strict enough terror laws? This, that, and the other. I mean, I don't want to spend another extra hour or two going through airport checking, which is what's going to happen, though. Okay.
Do you know what, Mackie? This is the strange thing is that the government one day, with the backing of every single parliamentary helper, got the script together for our Prime Minister to say that he had a gun license, he had a gun, and he was part of some death cult. Okay, so that was the government's pitch, because they were scrambling, trying to put new laws together to try and prevent this kind of thing. So they wanted to add everything to it. Unfortunately, the New South Wales gun licensing, whoever they are, I forget the government department name specifically, but they said actually he didn't have a license to carry a firearm.
Yeah, I heard that too, yeah.
Yeah. Probably either because they didn't want their own audit, because they would have been audited for the incorrect processing of an application for a gun license, given his mental state. And so there's a discussion about that. Then if I put my tinfoil hat on firmly over my head, then I would suggest maybe he did and was given a gun license after applying through the normal process, only to have been deleted off the record so that they wouldn't need to be audited. There'll probably be some kind of inquiry in which, a lot of let me say fat cats get on board and they get paid a lot of money to go and find out what the truth was. Good for them. But it's sad that how can the Prime Minister, with all the backing, with all of the entire government behind him, come up and not have correct information? Does that not question all of the validity of all of his other information? And I have to say, for me, if I saw engine oil dripping out of a plane engine, which it doesn't do anyway, because there's almost no oil in it, there is oil pressure, but if there was oil dripping out, I would question the entire plane's maintenance schedule. And in this case, you've got a government official up there saying that he has a gun license and we need to be stricter with gun license, permissions. But then the gun license people said, no, actually, back up. We didn't give him one. He doesn't have one. So who was wrong? Was the government trying to tighten up gun control through that very statement, the way they've worded it, or otherwise? Because then their own backbencher, the same government side, said, well, if it was in America, it wouldn't have happened because everyone can carry. And if the hostages could have carried, they would have taken the guy out.
Yeah, no, there might have been a shootout and we'd be looking at 10 people dead.
Yeah, but the question, I think the question was put out there. I don't think the guy was just, I don't think he wants looser gun controls, but I think they wanted the debate on the gun control. So they got their own guy to push it out there. I mean, Labor wasn't going to touch that, so the opposition party wasn't going to touch that in government, yeah? So, and even the Shooters Party said, we're completely quiet. The Shooters Party wasn't going to make one step towards that path. We've already had that, automatic weapon thing taken off the market, guys. All that's left are shotties and rifles and pistols. That's it. Good luck. Yeah, you're not allowed to carry them in public. You can't be armed if you want. But
that is true.
But the question, the reason why I said I don't think there's any reason to suggest that the shooter, the gunman, the lone gunman, acting on his own behalf of his own derangement, shot those two people, because at the moment, clearly there was no photograph, there was nothing to the media, no one's ever going to see them, and the coroner report was never released. It was never released. It didn't say cause of death, shotgun, GSW to the head or torso or whatever, right?
Sure.
Because that makes a mess of you. I don't care who you are, but that's awful, and it's an awful way of passing away through shotgun blast. There was only a policeman had a pellet in his face, but it was probably ricochet and wasn't direct. And the person who later on subsequently died in hospital through a stress-related injury, through a heart failure. And these are all dreadful. I mean, they're all dreadful. But there was a time early on, maybe in the morning about 9:30 or 10:30 or something like that, where you saw the lone gunman inside the building. Even with the television cameras, you could see him moving backwards or forwards with his face directly towards the glass. At that time, I completely wouldn't be surprised if there was a trained sniper, many of them trained with their weapons on that building, that one guy with that curly thing in his ear, radio, would have said at one point, "I've got a clear shot, let me take him out."
Yep.
That would have stopped all of it. And all of the good discussions this week that I had on this were based around, if this occurred in another country, it occurred in the US, all the hostages would have been listed up there and who they were, and that the shooter definitely would have been listed up there like a computer game. His body would have been 3D graphic rotation. How they got that, who knows? They would have had, all his past history and who he is, where he lives, and all that stuff as well. They would have posted this online. I'm just kidding, but you know what I'm saying. The depth of information being delivered to the public would have been a lot higher. In Russia, they probably just would have thrown a grenade in the hope to, either stun or surprise the guy, and then gone in guns blazing, and whoever lived was good. But in our country, it looked like they were going to wait till he fell asleep in a coffee shop. In a coffee shop
with no other exits, so they believe that he actually went there to die.
Well, apparently,
I don't know if that's
sorry. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But apparently, he tried Channel 7's building first.
Oh, did he really?
Across the street. Yep.
Well, that makes sense. It's a lot more. It's a lot more newsworthy if you get a news channel, right?
Yeah, and Channel 7 really they scooped it because they were right across the street. All of the broadcasts had Channel 7 logos all over it, and they became known worldwide. Yeah. And the BBC had a great broadcast using the Channel 7 footage, and I don't think anyone was really at a loss as to any of the information, but I think the way it was handled, because Meki, if I counted three different ways that a siege situation, not a domestic siege, but a siege where the hostages are in a public building, like a building that the public can access. The first one is that everybody's dead and the gunman is dead. The second choice is some people are dead and the gunman's dead. And the third choice is everybody's alive and the gunman's dead. Mm-hmm. They're the three choices you have when you have a public siege. If it's in a house, they can talk them down and usually get quite a good result. But I don't know of any case at all, and please correct me and I want discussion on it. Don't hate me. Haters be hating, right? I don't know of the fourth case where the gunman survives but just does jail time and all the hostages survive. So tell me of any... I can't
think of anything either. I mean, mostly, in all hostage situations that have been broadcast like this is usually one outcome. One outcome is that the gunman or gunmen
for the gunman,
are dead. Yeah, but there's actually 3 points further after this, but 1 point to this. I want you guys to realize that one person with a shotgun managed to bring to a standstill, the CBD, the Central Business District of Sydney. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the roads were closed, buses stopped running, and trains stopped running. And because the city circle actually affects the entire Sydney network, the entire metropolitan network in Sydney, all the trains were affected. Okay, so one person with a shotgun managed to, at least for a day, bring Sydney to a halt. Now imagine what a concerted effort could do. I mean, I don't want to imagine it. It's horrendous. If you think about what could actually happen. Yeah, it was right near the Reserve Bank. I know. It's in fact my wife's cousin used to work there, and a friend of my brother's used to be security there. So it's all there. I mean, it's right there in that place. Martin Place is a fairly large place. It's longish. It stretches, sort of through the CBD, and if you have been to Sydney, it's a nice place to go. There's also the Anzac War Memorial and a whole bunch of other things in there. But that's all I had on this, Dave. There's a couple other things we need to mention. You've got okay, cool. So number one is a tragedy of enormous proportions, which sort of was overshadowed by the Sydney siege. The murder, and I'm using this word advisedly, of some 140 school children in Pakistan.
Yes.
A military-run school, yes, I get it, and the children are also children of military personnel, leaders, generals, whatever. I get it, but they're still children. So the Taliban, they say, made a concerted effort attack on the school, killed 140 children. I can say it again. 9 staff, I believe, and 7 of the attackers were killed as well. They went from classroom to classroom to make sure that they shot all the children that had survived dead. Yeah, that's very graphic in my description, and I mean it to be. This is unacceptable. It's unacceptable for anyone to do this. It's I don't even know where you begin to understand something like this. I mean, what punishment do you apply? Sorry, that's one thing. The second thing is the movie The Interview. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Oh, everyone should know about this.
Everybody should know about this, right? So this is Seth Rogen and what's the other kid's name? That's the one, James Franco. Thank you, Dave. Now they made this movie, and they're in fact like Dave and I, but except they host a talk show on TV, right? So like that, and apparently it's quite popular. They had 1,000 episodes or whatever, and it turns out that the actual current leader of North Korea, right? This is not some hypothetical country or hypothetical leader, and this is really the crux of the story here. This is a real leader of a real country is portrayed to be a fan of the show. Great. So the guys are invited to go to North Korea to interview the current leader of North Korea, and the CIA comes and visits him and says, "We would like you to take him out." And he goes, for dinner, to the movies. Yeah. And no, we wouldn't like you to, eliminate him. So that's the crux of the movie. This is the very first time ever. This goes even in World War II propaganda movies where an actual force has been sent out to assassinate an actual sitting head of state of an actual existing country, right? Not some made up country or made up kind of president or prime minister or whatever. Okay, and the thing here is this. The thing is this. There's this group, the hacker group out there. I think Guardians of Peace or Guardians for Peace or some such thing. They said if you do this, if you release the movie. And this has gone to Sony initially, and then to the actual distributors like the movie houses and so forth. We will hack you. We will release all your secrets. We will do all these things, okay, to you. And while Sony was going to forge ahead and release the movie, the actual cinemas, the movie houses, the distributors said no. We will not do that. Now you can take this.
They were under threat because of the patrons were going to be threatened.
Correct. Correct. So see, the thing is this. Now I know, put your tinfoil hat on, guys, because I actually thought about this, and maybe I'm crazy, but I just want to give you a different perspective on this. What if these Guardians for Peace, and this is way out there, guys, so you better be inside.
I'm ready.
Okay,
I'm ready.
Okay, so what if these Guardians for Peace, and I'm just saying it out out loud here now, have some kind of way of understanding what the future holds, have come from the future, seen the future, know the future, and know that the screening of this movie would so incense the leader of North Korea that in a fit of rage could potentially trigger, somehow cause World War III. Yeah. So what they do is, well, there's not much we can do. We can't stop the movie from being made. Maybe they didn't know about it early enough, but we can try to stop the movie from being released in a wide action. Maybe it goes straight online, maybe straight to DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. I don't really care. But maybe it was this worldwide ridicule of the North Korean leader that, in an alternative timeline, might have led to World War III. Just putting it out there, Again, we had the time travel shows over the last few cycles, so something to think about. Having said that, though, it is, of course, a massive infringement on the freedom of speech. That these people would be intimidated to the point where they won't show a movie, right, Dave? I mean, that's actually unheard of, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a global threat. Meki, you said it's the first movie. Remember Team America?
I do.
Okay.
I do. But that was
that was done using marionettes.
Yes.
And and the entire premise. The only reason it was made with marionettes was because the Thunderbird movie was cancelled, and they decided to use real actors. And these marionettes were all repurposed from the failed shoot of that movie, and they decided, what's his name? The South Park guys decided to put Team America together as a result. It's great. We all had a good laugh, and it was funny, yeah. And this is the thing, yeah, that didn't seem as real as this one. This one has a connection. It probably, I think, from what I heard, there was millions of emails already hacked, and to prove themselves and their strength, whoever these people are, they sent them some of the detail that they said they were going to do, like where they call Will Smith, they call him names or his children names or whatever. This is execs from the movie industry, where they release wages of people and all this kind of thing, and to the impression, and let's call them talent, right? The talent in a movie, it's awful that it gets to this point. Now, I've seen pretty long previews of the movie. I don't really see where the harm is. It's a Seth Rogen film after all. Okay, if anyone wants to reflect on Pineapple Express, did that change drug cartels? No, it didn't. Maybe, and Sindolo in the chat room I have to give credit to, is it maybe possibly a weird false flag, state-sponsored?
It's possible.
We do know from, let's call it a security perspective all around the world, that most companies, if you don't think you're hacked, you probably have already been hacked and are still continuing to be hacked from a nation-state style attack lasting up to 10 years in length.
Yep.
Okay? This is just what we know in the tech security, the tech sec, right? In tech security, we know this. We know it's happening. The best you can do is just cut it off if you find it. And not usually very many people discover that they've been hacked for so long, blah blah blah. Right? So look, it's a shame, and I think I think movies like this do need to be put out there, but what, for the risk of World War III? And you have to ask yourself, is it really worthwhile? I don't think having a laugh for 90 minutes is worth the end of society.
Correct. And the thing is this, Dave, and I agree with you. I mean, it would have been easy enough to come up with a country like North Crumbistan, right?
Yeah,
or whatever.
I love that town.
Okay, so the
You should see it in autumn. It's lovely. In fall.
Yeah, I know. I love it too. Or make up a name for the leader. I don't care. Call him, Kim Jong Falswick. I don't know anything. but you don't. I mean, in my book, it's bad taste. In fact, it would have been a diplomatic schlamazel. It would have been a diplomatic disaster for the Americans with North Korea if the movie had been released. But yeah, look. Whatever the final outcome is, and this is now, of course, going to be a cult film. You can't buy publicity like this. Okay?
No,
you cannot.
You
buy
can't.
It.
It cost you more than the film was, cost to make. And do you know what, Mickey? I already want to request it on my pay-per-view.
Yeah, I know. But you know what they were actually talking about? This was on radio. I can't remember. They said, do you think the BitTorrent sites are going to host it? They were actually talking about the illegal BitTorrent sites, where you can download your movies from. Do you think they will risk hosting it? What?
Right.
This was on commercial radio I listened to on the way to work. I go, okay, this is interesting.
I'm convinced that most of those aren't really black sites anyway. I think that they're already owned and controlled. Did you see that Pirate Bay came down?
Pirate Bay and Easy TV, yes.
Yeah. It's probably only a change of ownership, where it's forcibly now owned by a three-letter agency, and it'll miraculously come back up online, and everyone that downloads from it will be logged and registered.
But see, they already have click traps. I mean, if some of the three-letter agencies takes it over, imagine how much more sophisticated the click traps become. Yeah. Okay, what's a click trap? A click trap is if you, let's say, and I only know this because people tell me, if you go to a torrent site, for argument's sake, you click on a torrent, and another web page opens, that's a click trap. All right, it just opens a link into, I don't know, maybe someone wants to sell you Viagra, or they want to sell you like a lottery ticket. I don't know, whatever it might be.
It's not important.
No, it doesn't matter. But the point is that they're opening up a window that you didn't want to open. Okay, establishing a connection that you didn't ask for. Now, if you're smart, then you want to get to the computer, you hide that connection. Okay, you hide that you have a click trap. Okay, and then of course, obviously, if you're a three-letter acronym agency, right, the chocolate factory, then you can do that. Okay, and quite easily. In fact, I would be astonished if they hadn't already used that, like Dave said.
Do you know, they already know that there's more than 200 million films at any moment, at any time of the day, globally, that are being copied around on the internet. 200 million at any moment. It's not. It's a lot. These are staggering figures. So,
it's massive.
And because they know what's actually getting around, this next thing that we've seen this week, especially in Australia, also is the metadata. They're now arguing how long should we keep it for. Remember, everyone has got such little brains. Their memory they got like, I don't know, 4K memory stick in their head. They can't remember anything unless they're currently doing it. Because what was Snowden's first thing that he released to the public? Metadata trapping. The retention of metadata by the three-letter agencies, in which your data would be kept in the future for the resolution of some crime or something. The shame is that now our government is talking about it. I know that Americans would probably have a who cares attitude towards another country trapping metadata. But you know what? Our government has already passed a law to do it, and now they're trying to decide, well, how long do we need to do it for?
Yeah.
It's excellent for solving, tech crimes. Well, what's a tech crime? Initially, our own government said it doesn't matter. We're not going to arrest you if you've downloaded a movie off the internet. What? That's copyright infringement. Why aren't the three-letter agencies in Australia going to do that? Oh, because they've got bigger fish to fry. But the only person that can arrest you, lay charges against you, is the copyright owner themselves. So if I took a photo, I'm the copyright owner. Meki, for some reason, it uses it against my permissions. He didn't ask, and I can pursue him. I'm the only one that can pursue him. No one else can do it on my behalf. I have to do it directly. So Sony would have to directly pursue me if I'd done it, which I did, right? So that's the difference. It's the big difference. So he says, oh, now our agencies won't be doing it. No, they won't be doing it at all. No, they'll be giving that data out like lollies to whoever requests it. And I'm sure the same occurs in the US already. And look, we're just US's little brother, and we'll see what comes of it.
Yep.
So, Mackie.
Now, on that, well, this is actually a good segue in a way, because this is control, right? It's control, and in fact, I do believe that the movies are being used to do what we're going to discuss with you guys today, and potentially next week as well, which in fact is mind control. We're going to, and this is a surprise for Solaris, but we're probably going to ask her to be on our show yet again and discuss this toward the end of this particular cycle. Mind control is a lot scarier than I thought. Well, it's scary, but what is scary is the actual application and the open technology that has been now put into the public domain. There's an article we want to share with you at the very end of our show notes, so we won't get to it today. But this was actually posted November 11, 2014, and it talks about a brain-to-brain link that makes mind control possible. Now, this is in the public domain. This is not some crazy stuff, and it actually comes from lifescience.com. Okay, so if you want to have a look yourself, knock yourself out. But we will share that article with you at the end of the show notes. It's a very strange thing. Mind control, of course, comes in many different ways. Okay, and it also comes in different shades, if you will. Okay, so there's mind control. There's also subliminal control.
Mm-hmm.
And we will discuss with you a little bit further on, again in a one for Dave, one for me fashion,
Awesome.
the types of mind control techniques that I use today, and some of those might surprise you because you think, hey, that's not mind control. Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
It is. Oh, wow, Solaris, thank you so much. She's listening. That's awesome. She's just agreed to be on our show. Thank you. Now that's, you know what that is called? That is called being on the line. I love it. Thank you, Solaris. Thank you so much. Because her perspective, of course, is unique. Unique in as that she's speaking about it, and her experience is quite harrowing, and I think it's very brave that she chooses to share it with you and us, and Freedom Slips as well. Now, mind control, okay? It's also known as brainwashing, re-education, coercive persuasion, and yes, sir.
Meki, I want to do subliminals.
Yes, of course you will. Yes, sir. Naturally, you will. Thought control or thought reform. It is time for re-education.
Oh,
sorry, you can't get away from The Simpsons.
No,
now, it's a theoretical indoctrination process which results in an impairment of autonomy, an inability to think independently, and the disruption of beliefs and affiliations. Okay, that's the textbook definition. In this context, brainwashing refers to the involuntary re-education of basic beliefs and values. And the key thing here is this, and I want to give you a quick example about that. Most of you would be familiar with movies like Full Metal Jacket, and I guess general military movies that deal with the Marines as well. Marines, it's a very good case study for this. What they do is take young, usually you have to be young for this, 17, 18, 19, early 20s at the outmost, and take you and put you through a physical and mental rigor for weeks on end. There's only one purpose to this. One single purpose, that is to break you down to your basic component parts, and then when that has happened, put you back together in the way they like you. Make you a perfect, killing machine, I guess, or perfect soldier, if you wish a more positive term there. Okay, so that's a very basic, outline of what it means to be brainwashed and mind controlled and have someone being broken down to the basic component parts and then build up again in someone else's image. Now,
of course, they're rebuilt to remove thought.
Yes, absolutely. Now, the term has been applied to any tactic, psychological or otherwise, and we'll talk about those, which can be seen as subverting an individual's sense of control over their own thinking, behavior, emotions, or decision making. Make good decisions, people. This is your chance to make a difference for yourselves. Make good decisions. They will try to take this away from you. Theories of brainwashing and of mind control were originally developed to explain how totalitarian regimes appear to succeed systematically in indoctrinating prisoners of war through propaganda and torture techniques. You all are familiar with the Manchurian Candidate, I'm sure. It's exactly that. These theories were later expanded and modified by psychologists including Jean-Marie Abgral and Margaret Singer to explain a wider range of phenomena, especially conversions to new religious movements. Right, so the cult brainwashing. We won't spend too much time on that though. A third-generation theory proposed by Ben Zablocki focused on the use of mind control to retain members of these new religious movements and cults. The suggestion that these cults use mind control techniques has resulted in scientific and legal controversy. Of course it has. You're all familiar with the cases of these cults, Aum Shinrikyo, there's the Jonestown massacre as well. All very strange things. And there was this one cult that believed if they killed themselves, the asteroid, was it Hale Bob? I think it might have been Hale Bob.
There was another.
No?
One. That's right.
Another asteroid would pick him up and take him off into paradise. Now, each to their own, I say to that. Now, the origin, very quickly, of the term, excuse me, It comes from the Oxford English Dictionary, and the earliest known English language usage of brainwashing is in an article by newspaperman Edward Hunter in Miami News, published October 7th, 1950. Hunter, who was said to be a CIA propagandist, wrote a series of books and articles on the theme of Chinese brainwashing. Again, Manchurian Candidate, guys. And the word brainwashing quickly became a stock phrase in Cold War headlines. The Chinese term Xiao Niao, which I'm sure I mispronounced, was originally used to describe methodologies to coercive persuasion under the Maoist government in China, okay, which aimed to transform individuals with a reactionary imperialist mindset into right thinking, or left thinking in this case, members of the new Chinese social system. Now, the term Xiao Niao literally means wash brain. It's also a pun on the Taoist custom of cleansing, washing the heart or the mind, Zizin, before conducting certain ceremonies or entering certain holy places. Yeah, so there's a bit of a play on words in Chinese, if that interests you. Now, Hunter and those who picked up the Chinese term used it to explain why some American GI prisoners of war cooperated with their Chinese captors, even in a few cases defecting to the enemy's side. Now, we could talk here also about the Stockholm Syndrome, which is a similar kind of phenomenon, but doesn't necessarily involve the use of drugs or torture. It is simply the way the human mind is structured. We want to align ourselves with the strongest person. Okay, it just happens that way. British radio operator Robert W. Ford and British Army Colonel James Curran also claimed that the Chinese subjected them to brainwashing techniques during the war-era imprisonment. The US military and government laid charges of brainwashing in an effort to undermine detailed confessions made by military personnel to war crimes, including biological warfare. After Chinese radio broadcasts claimed to quote Frank Schwable, Chief of Staff of the 1st Marine Air Wing, admitting to participating in germ warfare, United Nations Commander General Mark Clark asserted, this is a quote here now, whether these statements ever passed the lips of these unfortunate men is doubtful. If they did, however, too familiar are the mind-annihilating methods of these communists in extorting whatever words they want. The men themselves are not to blame, and they have my deepest sympathy for having been used in this abominable way. Okay, now one more thing before we get to the subliminal stimuli. That's for Dave. Now I want to share with you a declassified document. We're going to spend a lot of time on these declassified documents in the coming hours. Because this is actually now all in the public domain for you to peruse at your own leisure. Now, a declassified CIA document dated January 7th, 1953 describes the creation of multiple personalities in 19-year-old girls. These subjects, and this is a quote, have clearly demonstrated that they can pass from a fully awake state to a deep hypnotic control state by telephone, by receiving written matter, or by the use of code, signal, or words, and that control of those hypnotized can be passed from one individual to another without great difficulty. So you can change your handlers. Exactly. Aha. It has also been shown by experimentation with these girls that they can act as unwilling couriers for information purposes. Now, this is extracted from Project Bluebird. Project Bluebird. The reference here is this. CIA MORI ID 190684, pages 1 to 4. It's a declassified CIA document dealing with mind control, okay? And for free, unlimited access to this and other mind control documents, there's a link here to archives, which we have as part of the show notes. So you can help yourselves there. And it's all part of the Freedom of Information Act release. Now, but more about government mind control programs later in the show. First to something that most people are not aware of. Okay, it permeates our lives. It influences us in ways which are completely unknown to us. We are completely blind to, and it is the most effective form of mind control or persuasion in existence, as far as I know. Dave.
Yeah, that's true. So we're talking about subliminal stimuli. When I was in the US, I went to school in 82, 83. I learnt about the banning. Banning, that's funny. The banning. And they didn't talk about the end of use of this subliminal advertising in particular, because it was so effective that it was deemed unfair when used upon the public to say drink an ice-cold glass of Coca-Cola. The way that someone can describe something can bring you to a memory, the way that you picture something, like, i.e. the best example was when it was used as a single frame out of 32 frames per second of a glass of something. The person watching it was unable to distinguish that they'd seen the object, and yet their brain knew what they had seen and registered that as a want. So that's part of it. The other part in advertising was also to do with whiskey being advertised, being shown either on the bottle or in the bottle or being poured into a glass. When you photograph, if you're into photography, you'll understand that ice cubes themselves can't really be seen. And so the airbrushing experts in the back room after the photo shoot of the product would then use, not today's term, not Photoshop, but they would airbrush. So they would airbrush back into the picture that was chosen to be the one that they were going to use for their advertising campaign, would then be manipulated in such a way, either visually at the time in post by airbrushing shapes and things into it, into the ice, particularly Meki. But the other thing that they would use a lot of is having, say, a naked woman just off out of the camera's angle, and it would her image would be visible in the bottle itself.
Yeah, that's
You'd be
clever.
able to see the image of the naked woman in the bottle. So it was particularly used with the hard alcohol advertising, because when do you want to drink it? Well, you had an inkling. For some reason, you're programmed that if you were in a situation where, and they'd have skull and crossbones and all kinds of things showing bad with their product. So if you were in a situation where you were down your luck, your girlfriend had left you, and you had memories and whatever it was of situations, you would then tend towards their product. And they were very sneaky in the way that they did it. And most of those, if you were to look in a particular magazine that has a bunny rabbit as bunny ears, I don't want to say what the product is, but there's a bunny related logo. If you were to look in their, I think, pre-1978 and earlier issues, every alcohol advertisement in there contains subliminal advertising. And it was banned post the 78 or something like that. I can't remember the date. Correct me in the chat room. Anyway, so I studied this in the US when I was at school there, and I found it and the results of the subliminal, the use of subliminals to be quite unbelievable. So the subliminal stimuli, literally below threshold. So you're unaware that you're seeing it. You're unaware that you're taking it in. Contrary to supraliminal stimuli, or above threshold, where it's just blatant, it's there, you can see it, and you're aware that you're seeing it. And they're all are any sensory stimuli below an individual's threshold for conscious perception. I think I've stated all that. Do you think we can move on, Meki?
I think so. Let's move into maybe consumption and television.
Yeah, so they were honestly completely. It was so effective, it wasn't funny. And as Meki said before, if you can transfer the control or signals to someone, I think this is what we're going to see. Some studies, this is consumption and television. Some studies have looked at the, what's that word?
Efficacy.
Efficacy.
Effectiveness.
Effectiveness, that's right. Of subliminal messaging in television. Subliminal messages produce only 1/10 of the effects of detected messages, and the findings related to the effects of subliminal messaging were relatively ambiguous. Karamans suggest that subliminal messages have an effect when the messages are goal relevant. Subliminally priming a brand name of a drink, Lipton Ice, for instance, made those who were thirsty want the Lipton Ice product. However, those who were not thirsty were not influenced by the subliminal messages. So you can see just how effective that is. They did a study assessing whether subliminal priming of a brand name of a drink would affect a person's choice of drink and whether this effect is caused by the individual's feelings of being thirsty. In another study, participants' ratings of thirst were higher after viewing an episode of The Simpsons that contained single frames of the word thirsty, or a picture of a Coca-Cola can. Some studies have shown greater effect of subliminal messaging, with as high as 80% of participants showing a preference for a particular rum when subliminally primed by the name placed in an ad backwards. That's the other thing that's amazing. Our brains can read this stuff backwards. I've even seen examples of how a brain works by randomizing numbers and letters on a page, and the only word that you can make of it, if you had to wrote a number out, is that word that they want you to know. Otherwise, all the random ones are taken away, and your brain has only one choice. Many authors have continued to argue for the effectiveness of subliminal cues in changing consumption behavior, citing environmental cues as a main culprit of behavior change. Authors who support this line of reasoning cite findings such as the research that showed slow-paced music in a supermarket was associated with more sales and customers moving at a slower pace. Subliminal messaging is prohibited in advertising in the United Kingdom. It's also prohibited.
Nowhere else, though.
Yeah.
Nowhere else.
I always put this to people, and I've always talked about subliminal. And the one thing is, if you've found yourself, for some reason, standing in front of the display of tomatoes, commenting to yourself just how red and delicious they seem, then I think you might have been a slave to the subliminal advertising messages.
Yes, sir.
Take it, Mick.
Okay, well, this is something we're going to take in turn, Dave and I. So, now these are actually instances of subliminal messagings, okay? These are things that have happened. They're instances of messages that have led to controversy and even legal action, or legal allegations in some cases. And as I said, we're going to take this in turn. So the first one, the first one we have here for you is in 1978 in Wichita, Kansas. Wichita, I love to say Wichita. Television KAKE received a special permission from the police to place a subliminal message in a report on the BTK killer, buy and torture killer. You might remember this, guys. Maybe not. Maybe I'm too old. In an effort to get him to turn himself in. The subliminal message included the text, "Now call the chief," as well as a pair of glasses. The glasses were included because when BTK murdered Nancy Fox, there was a pair of glasses lying upside down on her dresser. Police felt that seeing the glasses might stir up remorse in the killer. The attempt was unsuccessful, and police reported no increased volume of calls afterwards. And that's the music. Don't go away, guys. Please donate if you can. You can find the button on the left-hand side in the chat room.
I'll be asking questions after the break. Hold tight.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Hello and welcome to Revolution Radio here at freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported internet radio station in the world. So, want to ask you, do you have a favorite host or several here at Revolution Radio? Don't have the time to catch every show when it's live? Well, you can get all the shows of your favorite host for the year 2014 on one data DVD, so you can play on your preferred device at any time. The cost, just $30 plus shipping. Now, remember, I'm just one guy, so allow up to 2 weeks or 10 business days for delivery. Also, the hosts themselves get half of the net proceeds. So not only are you supporting Revolution Radio, you're supporting your favorite host as well. So just go to our homepage and click the banner that says your favorite show. It's just down. It's easy to find. Big old letters. Anyway, so thank you. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. We are taking pre-orders for the 2014 and we'll start shipping after the first of the year.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons? Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply, though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958, and Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You're back with David Mackey's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com, and that's right, just as you heard Nighthawk say, the number one internet radio in the world. Since it is listener-funded radio, you know what it is? It is. We told you before the break to donate. It's really important you do. If you like what you hear, please go to freedomslips.com and push the donate button. It's on the site support page, and if you're in the chat, it's on the left-hand side. And if you donate more than $25, you'll get a gift, but you need to put your address in so Hawk can flick it out to you. Don't be paranoid. It's all good. You know, that's a funny thing for me to ask my audience, but I'll tell you, because you know that would go through my mind. I'm just saying, but you know, we're all friends here, so please. If you like the gift, you can. If you want to just donate straight up and you don't want a gift, then don't put your address in. You can just do a one-time purchase, Mickey. You know, if you didn't know that, you can. You don't need to have a PayPal account. You can simply just type in all the details on the fly. It doesn't record anything, and you're done. But you know what? Mickey and I are currently through. This is show 147. We're nearly at 150.
740 and 100. Whoa, 3 weeks to 150, Dave, right? That's
I know.
when is that? That's after New Year, right? The first one after New Year, is that right?
Yeah, pretty close, yeah. So if there's 52 a year, and I know that we'd probably, I think, the next show or something, there might be, you know, it might be just pretty much station-centric. So we'll look into getting some more detail on that one. But if you're liking this and you're listening to this show and you've donated, certainly, please do that. Then you can go to freedomslips.com or you can go to shinysideout.com. You can follow us, do all the things you want to do. Yeah, I prefer that you get the archives from Hawk and from Nighthawk or the station, and yeah, it's a small fee, but you've got access to all the other show hosts' archive as well, and you can listen to any show that they've ever done. It's pretty cool. If you don't want to do that, simply just purchase the DVD of your favorite hosts' shows for last year or this year or whatever it is, and you should enjoy it that way too. All right. Now, Meki, I found something during the break, because we get to do this, right? I love this part of being on air, and this is a close up. Now I've zoomed in on what can only be described as one of the most blatant I've ever seen, and this is an example of advertising, subliminal advertising in the ice. So you'd flick past this ad in printed form. You'd flick past it, you wouldn't even notice. And I'm circling it with a mouse, and I've sent Meki the link so he can see it.
Oh wow!
That
is, I can see it. That's pretty nifty.
Yeah. So I've zoomed in pretty hard on this one. I think 200 or 300%. And if I zoom back out, you'll see how little you're able to make that shape out, right? Here we go. I'm going to zoom out. That was 300%. And I get back down to 100%. And I'll get it in place so you can see it. Now, if the little string of writing wasn't there, you wouldn't look. It's an ad for a dry gin. It's you don't notice it, right? And that's what subliminal is all about. It's not something you recognize immediately. You really don't see it. It's just a bubble in ice or whatever. Who cares? But when you photograph ice, nothing is visible. It's almost completely clear. You don't see it. So anything you see in ice, I have to say, use your skills. Look into it. Find out what it is. Because the moment you realize it's there, the subliminal power of that message is lost.
Yeah.
It is lost. It's only when you're not perceiving it that it becomes problematic for you. You'll end up buying the product and they win. So this goes, it's further than that, and as Meki and I will bring out in this show cycle, yeah, and the control doesn't just come from a subliminal message. So I'll continue now, but during the 2000 US presidential campaign, television advertising for the Republicans candidate George W. Bush showed words and parts thereof scaling from the foreground to the background on a television screen. When the word bureaucrats flashed on the screen, one frame showed only the last part. Rats. The FCC looked into the matter, but no penalties were ever assessed in this case. Now, you could call that, that's the dirty side of politics, when you're bashing the opposition rather than promoting your positives. But it screams subliminals to me.
And those were the ones that they caught, guys, right? So
that's right.
In the British alternative comedy show, I love alternative here, The Young Ones, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It is hilarious. A number of subliminal images were present in the original and most repeated broadcasts of the second series. Images included a gull coming into land, a tree frog jumping through the air, a man gurning, and the end credits of the film Carry On Cowboy. These were included to mock the then occurring matter of subliminal messages in television. Okay, so there's obviously a satire on that. These images do appear in the US box set DVD every stupid episode. So if you're in the States and you have the box set, look out for them.
Absolutely. The jumping frog, the leaping frog, I actually remember seeing it, and we've paused them. Every show had them, and you could pause, and if you were lucky enough with a VCR, you could pause it on frame. It's pretty funny. This is an Australian connection here. Sean McAuliffe. Australian McAuliffe program shows contain strange subliminal messages that can be seen on the DVDs. As they are of random, humorous statements, questions, etc., they are not regarded as advertising and therefore they can evade the laws. They were usually images of politicians, as in the case with his more recent Newstopia. Now, you know what? I think that's very strange that you would do that. But that's Sean McAuliffe for you.
Yeah, I hear you. In Warner Brothers' 1943 animated film Wise a Quacking Duck, Daffy Duck spins a statue which is holding a shield. For one frame, the words "Buy bonds" are visible on the shield. Now, these are the war bonds, guys. I don't know if you knew this, but the government issued war bonds which were used to support the war effort. Yeah, so this would be money that the government would use to build tanks and so forth. There you go. The government is not very far from controlling you. Controlling you. We'll get into those ones, into the audio ones, but the horror film The Exorcist is well known for its frightening yet effective use of subliminal images throughout the film, depicting a white-faced demon named Captain Howdy. This image is shown in the character father's Kara's nightmares, where it flashes across the screen for a few seconds before fading away. Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's one.
Yeah, I love this one. A McDonald's logo appeared for one frame during the Food Network's Iron Chef America, and this was this series in 2007, in fact the 27th of January, leading to claims that this was an instance of subliminal advertising. The Food Network replied that it was simply a glitch. Sure it was. It was a wardrobe malfunction.
Wardrobe malfunction, yeah. That was, in fact, on that one there was no malfunction. Good luck. That was just part of their routine, and they got caught out for being rude on it. Yeah. So, in Formula One racing, the paint scheme of many cars would carry messages intended to look as if they were of banned tobacco products in many Grand Prix, where tobacco advertising was banned. Though many of these were jokes on the part of the teams. Of course they were. For example, Jordan Grand Prix ran Benson and Hedges sponsorship as Bitten and Hisses. That's very funny. With a snake skin design on their cars. A similar procedure was used by the NASCAR it wasn't Jeff Gordon, everyone. It was Jeff Burton.
It was.
After the AT&T mobility advertising was banned by a court order in 2007, and by Penske Championship Racing in NASCAR, where Selco partnership is prohibited, and the IRL Marlboro. In both instances, a distinctive design where the banned company's identity, the Verizon V, and the Marlboro chevron were integrated into the car's design. And that would be the paint work, the paint design, to show those hidden elements of their logos. And I think that's cunning, but it's going to get you some trouble, yeah?
Absolutely. This is another Australian reference here. On November 7th, 2007, our own Network 10 in Australia broadcast of the ARIA Awards was called out for using subliminal advertising in an expose by the Media Watch program on the ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. So that was actually called out there during the ARIAs, no less.
During the ARIAs.
During the ARIAs.
Wow. Okay. So in June to July 2007, Sprite used a type of obvious subliminal message involving yellow lemon and green lime objects such as cars. The objects would then be shown inconspicuously in the same setting while showing the word lime on. Combining the words lime and lemon on the screen for a second at a time, they called this subliminal advertising. The previous year, Sprite used a similar advertising campaign, but this time it was tied to the Lost experience and alternate reality game. In Sunshine 2007, 5 pictures of the crew are shown subliminally during part of the film. Wow, the crew. Huh. Here's another example. A Brainiac. Science abuse. There is an experiment carried out to see if viewers would react to subliminal messages. One was shown during an experiment to discover which substance provides the best skid. The message appeared when a Brainiac hit a bale of hay. The second message appeared across a t-shirt of a Brainiac saying, "Call your mum." And the third said, "Scratch your nose." When a sound wave hit the Brainiac logo at the end of the show, people were shown in a theatre watching that episode. The test showed that the messages barely impacted the audience. The subliminal content in this episode was legal, as its presence was announced at the beginning and the end of the episode. You know, does it make it legal if you say it? Apparently it does. In week 11 of The Apprentice, Martha Stewart, in which candidates have to create an ad for the Delta Former low-cost commercial airlines song, the team Matchstick used a 1/48th frame image at the bottom right corner with the song airlines logo. I wish I had a graphic of that one. I don't, unfortunately. Here's also another one of the lemon lime, the lime on. I can't show you half the other ones because they contain adult content, and it's probably best we don't. If you've seen the movie Cloverfield, there's 3 subliminal pictures that can be seen during various parts of the film. When the camera footage distorts, you'll see them then. The photos are actually frames of classic monster films. I'm going to have to go through this frame by frame now, I think. The images are shown one at a time. The first, from the movie Them, appears when the group play the footage back. The second, from The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, appears when they close the door to the parasites. And the third, from King Kong, appears when the helicopter crashes. A monstrous creature can be also seen at the top right corner with its mouth slightly open as one of the clouds over the Statue of Liberty on the release cover. Ooh, even on the cover they did it. I didn't really like Cloverfield, but anyway, that's just my problem. I'm not putting it down. In an episode of British TV showed QI, which I'm a big fan, based on Hypnosis, host Stephen Fry suggested that he could use subliminal messages to get himself elected as the Pope. That's hilarious. The words Stephen Fry for Pope then briefly flashed up on the screen. This was repeated later on in the episode. In the episode Men Without Women of the IT Crowd, I remember I'm a big fan of that too, there is a scene where the character Douglas is trying to seduce Jen by showing her a film about his company on his laptop, which featured a subliminal message of Douglas lying in bed. Jen saw the image, but suspected the image meant something she suspected the image meant something was wrong with his laptop. During the credits of the episode, the same image flashes as briefly as a subliminal message. Well, I'll tell you, I don't think Douglas was particularly attractive, and it was, I think, only a joke in that case. But there's something about subliminal advertising which is a mind control thing. That, you know what, a lot of industries will get away with whatever they can get away with purely because, well, I don't think many people get it. It's only those hapless out there, the hapless few, that hit the pause button. Oh, what's that on the screen? They remark to themselves and get people in, and suddenly it's on YouTube, and the next thing they're getting caught out by the ombudsman or the committee or whoever it is that looks after their particular genre of media. Meki, we're just about to go through the 10 popular mind control techniques used today. The more one researches mind control, the more one will come to the conclusion, there's mind control in itself, leading the witness, that there is a coordinated script that has been in place for a long time with the goal to turn the human race into non-thinking automatons. Or, as I like to see it, idiocracy. It's got electrolytes.
Ooh! You
For
mean
as
what?
long as for as long as man has pursued power over the masses, mind control has been orchestrated by those who study human behavior in order to tend to bend large populations to the will of a small elite group. Meki, let's go through the top 10 of these. You knock it off first.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, just on this very quickly, guys. We're going to spend a little bit of time on each of those and ad-libbing as we go along. And just want to leave you with one quote from one Mr. Adolf Hitler. What luck for the rulers of the world that men do not think.
Yeah.
Think about that. So obviously, as Dave has just shared with us, the elite has always tried to control us. And where best to start but at an early age? And if you look at any totalitarian regime, in fact, any regime of any form,
So all the current ones.
right? Yeah, hello. They start with the children, ideally. Okay. In fact, the worst forms of mind control, which we won't probably have time to cover today, happen in babies. Now, the first one we're going to share with you that you might not think of as mind control is education. Okay. It is the most obvious to me and Dave because I've always thought about this a lot. It is also the most insidious. It has always been a would-be dictator's ultimate fantasy to educate naturally impressionable children, okay? Thus, it has been a central component to communists and fascists and any other ists that are out there throughout history. The elite, and I know they come in very many isms, the elite has used these ideologies to control us. I mean, it doesn't really matter what you believe in the end, okay, as long as they're in charge. And they know that the children is where you have to start. The Hitler Youth, as an example, I'm ad-libbing here, right? They after the war was lost, the Russians and the Americans were knocking at the door in Berlin. Well, the Russians were knocking at the door in Berlin because the Americans were holding back. But nonetheless, Hitler was still sending in his Hitler Youth in something called the werewolf resistance, you know, where you would see 10, 12, 14-year-old children, you know, attacking, you know, seasoned soldiers, veterans. If you watch the movie Fury, you may think it's an exaggeration. It's not. It is not an exaggeration. Children were sent in to die, and they believed. They really believed. Okay. No one has been more instrumental in exposing this agenda of modern education than Charlotte Iserbyt. Charlotte Iserbyt. One can begin the research into this area by downloading a free PDF of her book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. Guys, if you do yourself a favor, it's part of the show notes. The link is there. Have a look on our website, which lays bare, now this is the book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, lays bare the role of globalist foundations in shaping a future intended to produce servile drones lorded over by a fully educated, aware elite class. Pepsi, partial credit.
Partial credit.
Now, I want to quickly share one thing with you. So Napoleon was pretty much beating up all of Europe in the 18th century, right? And the Germans didn't really like that very much. So they go, well, why is it that we're fighting so poorly against Napoleon? It turns out we educated our guys too well. You know, we made them into philosophers and thinkers and poets, right? And so therefore we weren't really that good at soldiering. So they changed the educational system. This was in Prussia specifically. Okay, they changed it at an early age. They took out all this philosophy and poetry, you know, stuff which, you know, is just pinko, como, you know, greeno stuff anyway. Let's get rid of it. And lo and behold, in a relatively short time span, you know, decades, the Prussians managed to build an army which eventually did defeat Napoleon in league with the English. Yes, that's true. But nonetheless, the educational system in Germany at that point was changed. No longer a country of thinkers and philosophers. No, soldiers now, specifically in Prussia.
Mickey, I wanted to bring your attention to what was the symbol that they used, that Hitler used with his Hitler Youth. They had a hand symbol. And if you don't know it, it's making the pyramid with your hands above your head.
Is it not this?
Yeah, there was two.
This?
No. If you're looking at the stream, use two hands together. That's right. That's the one.
This one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
All right.
Gotcha.
So they used that, and I was talking. And I have to tell you this, Mickey, because it's on the same topic, right? Yeah, that's the one. So I was telling everyone at work, poor people, I swear, that I work with. There was a marketing thing came up, and of course I'm going to segue straight to Hitler and his success, because I'm not saying that from a marketing perspective. What do they do? Created a brand. What do they do? They created symboling. What did they do? The symbol is recognized today as being connected, even though it was an ancient symbol, truly ancient. They marketed that symbol as being theirs, and they were the first to really brand themselves. They had people that designed the outfits that they would all wear. To make sure they had committees, they had the whole business to make sure that they looked the part of threatening, like an autocratic nature. You're going to understand and listen to those people. This is what's taught in marketing. So if you know anything about marketing, you're going to already have known this. But if you're not involved in marketing, it's an eye opener. I have to tell you that they were so successful that some of their things that they did are still being used today. And because they were so successful. Create a brand, create a logo, and then educate the young. And when you've got the mass of the young on side, then you launch. And, there's... Miley Cyrus did something with her career, but I'm not... you know what I mean? She had the opportunity to take those people somewhere, and that's where she went with them. Whereas she was adorned by millions. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying she's the next Hitler or anything. Don't connect that together. All right,
well, so you can if you like.
No. I'm not going there. Not going there. But twerking is hers. She can own that. Number 2 of the top 10. I have to read the title again. I forgot. Top 10 popular mind control techniques used today. Advertising and propaganda. And I've just had my little editor's comment. I'll read the script. Edward Bernays has been cited as the inventor of consumerist culture that was designed primarily to target people's self-image, or lack of, in order to turn a want into a need. This was initially envisioned for products such as cigarettes, for example. However, Bernays also noted in his 1928 book, Propaganda, that propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. Mm-hmm. This can be seen most clearly in the modern police state. He didn't have any clue, did he? And the growing citizen snitch culture, which obviously was in the East Germany, wrapped up in the pseudo-patriotic war on terror. That was 1928.
Yep.
1928. He wrote those words. If they're not more pertinent now than they were then, I'm a monkey's uncle. I'm the chimpanzee, right? The increasing consolidation of media has enabled the entire corporate structure to merge with the government, which now utilizes the concept of propaganda placement. Media, print, movies, television, and cable news can now work seamlessly to integrate an overall message which seems to have the ring of truth because it comes from so many sources simultaneously.
Yep.
When one becomes attuned to identify the main message in quotes, one will see this imprinting everywhere, and this is not even to mention subliminal messaging. Now, my editor's comment on that frame, or that whole lot, is this is what we're currently doing. Mm-hmm. The mainstream media has been found out. Everyone's woken up, because we were silent to this. We were all being afflicted by this main message and understanding that they weren't telling the truth. And I think Fox got caught out, or whoever it was, when they were found just to be an entertainment network. But CNN news was found out to be an entertainment in a court. In a court of law, their news channel was entertainment. It wasn't news.
Absolutely.
Because they were frauding news.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is this: if you're listening to this right now, or
I think you're already on side.
Yeah, you know, I mean, why did you come here? And I guess to get an alternative view, you know, which is what we're providing. We're not as well funded, so we don't look as good, but you know, it certainly is a different view. And as Dave has pointed out, this is exactly what's happening now. The news corporations today are owned by, I think, 6 or 7 corporate entities. All right, this is in North America and by extension largely across the world. Because guess what? If you're an independent small newspaper in some country town, you're not going to have your own reporters in Ukraine or in Indonesia, right? You're going to run whatever AP runs or Reuters or Al Jazeera.
In the old days, they would tear off the thing and do research and find out what it is. But now they get the feed and they post it unchanged.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. All right, so these days, the news truly are manufactured for the most part. News stories are ignored. If you read Nexus magazine, which I do suggest you do, at the end of each year, and in fact the issue is out right now, we don't get paid for this to tell you, but I want you to know about this. There's something called Project Censored. It's a global initiative, and the 25 most censored news stories of the year are available. It's a website as well, but Nexus does you the favor of distilling it down into a few paragraphs.
That's a great get, Mickey.
Yeah, it's a really good thing that Duncan Rhodes does there. So thank you, Duncan, for maintaining Nexus as it is. Now, the next one, number 3 on our hit list, is predictive programming. If you are a big data guy, all right, if you know what big data is, this is it. Many still deny that predictive programming is real, and I would argue exactly the opposite. Now, in fact, I would invite anyone to examine the range of documentation put together by Alan Watt and come to any other conclusion. Okay, Alan Watt. Look him up, guys. Predictive programming has its origins in predominantly elitist Hollywood, where the big screen can offer a big vision of where society is headed. And we can just look back at the books and movies which we thought were far-fetched or science fiction, and then you take a close look around society today and see what happened, and you can take it further back even to Jules Verne if you really wanted to. For a detailed breakdown of specific examples, there's a website called Vigilant Citizen. Vigilant Citizen, again, the link is in the show notes. It's a great resource that will help you guys to understand entertainment in a completely different light. Not only that, though, predictive programming is also around, rather than just mapping a road for us, right? Rather than just mapping a road for us, it will also create certain needs within us. It'll spearhead trends, okay? The trend creators. Do you ever wonder why people start wearing jeans all of a sudden? Why nobody's wearing hats anymore? This might be silly questions, but this is the trend that started somewhere. Who determines these trends?
The people selling clothes determine what they're going to be next year.
Bingo, right? And what do people eat? I mean, you know, and it's actually quite scary how much control is being exerted without you knowing it. You're thinking, oh, I'm being adventurous. I'm trying Vietnamese today. Everybody else is trying Vietnamese today. Okay? How did that happen? Anyway, off to you, sir.
The number 4 item in today's top 10 popular mind control techniques used today. Number 4. Sports, politics, and religion. Some may take offense at seeing religion, or even politics, put alongside sport as a method of mind control. The central theme is that the same throughout: divide and conquer. The techniques are quite simple. Short-circuit the natural tendency of people to cooperate for their survival, and teach them to form teams bent on domination and winning. Sports has always had a role as a key distraction for the corral's tribal tendencies into a non-important event, which in modern America or globally has reached ridiculous proportions, where protests will break out over a sports celebrity leaving their city. But essential human issues such as liberty are giggled away as inconsequential. Political discourse is strictly in a left-right paradigm of easily controlled opposition, while religion is the backdrop of nearly every war throughout history. Now, we know all of this. We know it all, don't we? Is it ringing bells?
It should be. There should be alarm bells going off everywhere, guys. And Dave and I have always wondered, and I certainly have. I go to sports events, and for me, it's a study in human nature. You know, I enjoy playing sports. I enjoy, my own little sporting activities. Find it very difficult to follow a team, get into the team spirit, and rah 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 for this team versus that team, because usually these days the guys just change shirts, and like Seinfeld said, "Boo, new shirt, boo," same guy, different shirt. So it is true though, and in fact, I mean, Marx has said it himself. Religion is opium for the masses. Yes, it is. Sports has taken on that. Politics, of course, quite rightly pointed out here in this particular article, is really it's a non-talking point. You don't have a choice. In Australia, you have the Liberals, you've got Labour. Really, that's it, right? There's a couple of other smaller parties, but they don't really matter. In the States, you have resigned yourselves to the Republicans and the Democrats, right? If you want to look at a working democracy, I suggest you look at Switzerland. You look at the German Parliament. You look at the Knesset in Israel.
Yes.
Right? Because this is made up of tiny little parties, and you have to form coalitions. You actually have to debate the issues, right?
Imagine
you
that.
actually have to do that.
Imagine actually
right?
have issues that you could debate. But
Absolutely.
The ones that I like are the ones that are based around a council. And the council, a new person comes in while one of the longest standing members leaves. And so the majority of people remain unchanged. The country is still being controlled by that same group of people, and while you might think initially the change is very slow to come about, not the case. What they do is take a long-term view, and it's not all about the next election, where people are sold promises that are never put through. The Parliament themselves is I'm sorry, I'm getting too political, but anyway, the thing about it, remember, if you look at Rome, how could you stop all those people rioting? You have big sporting events where people were killed, and
completely.
And that was the equivalent of today's football, where supermassive people get together, groups of people get together, they follow something, and it's a distraction. Mekki, what was the day before 9/11? What happened on the day before 9/11 politically?
The announcement of the loss of the $2.3 trillion.
Yep. What happened in Australia during that siege this week?
Oh, that's
the budget,
right.
Mekki.
The budget was In fact, they postponed the budget announcement by. They did. Yeah, 2 hours. It was postponed by 2 hours, but then it was released. But the budget was. Yeah, you're right. It was completely not covered by the media.
That's
of course.
Right. And so we're seeing distraction after distraction, and this is one of those things. And I have to put news into point 4. Mekki, what's point 5?
Point 5, esteemed listeners, is food, water, and air. Now, we've spoken about this before, and we'll speak about it again in the future. Additives, toxins, and other food poisons literally alter brain chemistry to create docility and apathy. Fluoride, our old friend fluoride, in drinking water has been proven to lower IQ. Aspartame and MSG are excitotoxins. What does that mean? They excite brain cells until they die. Okay, and easy access to the fast food that contains these poisons generally has created a population that lacks focus and motivation for any type of active lifestyle. Idiocracy. You really have to see that movie, guys.
Electrolytes.
You have water like in the toilet? Most of the modern world is perfectly groomed for passive receptiveness and acceptance. Keyboard here, acceptance of the dictatorial elite. Well, they don't have to be dictatorial. They are the elite. I mean, they can be dictators or not. It doesn't matter. We do what they say. And if you choose to diligently watch your diet, they are fully prepared to spray the population from above. Can you say chemtrails? Uh-oh. Tinfoil head. Guys, your pineal gland calcifies.
It's being calcified as we speak, everyone.
Yeah, so... And this is your only escape route, guys. The only escape is through your pineal gland.
I have to say this, Mekki. We're only going to go through the top 10. It'll be the top of the show. So, guess what? When I discuss with my friends, if you don't think, anything that is food, bacteria will grow on. Bacteria doesn't grow on on the most popular fast food chain on the planet, if it doesn't grow on it, it isn't food. Right?
It's food-like. It's near food.
It's near food, right? So if it is, in fact, if it is so close to food that it seems like food and you can eat it, it doesn't mean it's actually food, right?
That is correct.
So, if that is in fact the case, think about if you were to ask all food manufacturers to label whether their food was in fact food or not, imagine their profit losses would be terrible, right?
Oh,
We'd see massive
staggering.
chains and lollies and sweets in America would certainly suffer greatly because they're one of the highest producers of that type of food. But at the same time, they're spraying from above. There was a chemtrailer pilot that is retired now, who's now whistleblower, and I respectfully respect them in the greatest of belief, because you can be told to do something your entire life. In the end, it's just you need the money, they need it done, and people do it, and it's the guilt that drives their bubbles to the top. I'm going to say, what's the next thing, Mackie? Drugs, right? In our top 10,
Indeed.
drugs is number 6. This can be an additive substance like the 600 ranges, if you're into that stuff, which I avoid. But the mission of mind controllers is to be sure you are addicted to something. One major arm of the modern mind control agenda is psychiatry, which aims to define all people with their disorders as opposed to their human potential.
Let me just interject 1 second, sorry, buddy.
I love it.
But did you know that grief has now been classified as a psychological disorder?
It's a disorder.
Grief.
Yeah,
It's a disorder now.
Yeah, you
Yep,
shouldn't.
sorry.
Yeah, you're nuts for grieving.
Yeah, what?
Completely. We have
Sorry.
to medicate you. PTSD, Mickey. Let's medicate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they spend how many months making someone army ready to rebuild them, but they don't rebuild them when they push them out back to the public. There should be
That is correct.
twice as much time to rehumanize them.
Yes, sir.
This was
Absolutely.
foreshadowed in books such as Brave New World. I love the book. Today, it has been taken even further extremes as medical tyranny. It's taken hold, Mickey, where nearly everyone has some sort of disorder, particularly those who question authority.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
In school, the kids that are trouble, ADT or some disorder, just
that's right.
pump them full of drugs.
Yeah, focusing.
Focus.
The use of nerve drugs in the military has led to record numbers of suicides. Worst of all, the modern drug state now has over 25% of the US children on mind-numbing medication. Now, this is old data, because now with the legalization of marijuana, what does the public have to complain about anymore? If you can drug them all up, they're just going to get dumber by the minute. And I'm not going to say that if you take marijuana you get dumber. I'm not saying that, but I mean you become happier. Remember, they talk about if you can supply your population with things that make them happy, they're less likely to complain.
And that's really the key here, right? You want to create an addiction, and then you want to create a compliant culture. Now, oddly enough, I recently watched Anthony Bourdain. He's got a new show out, and it escapes me. I think it's Unknown Destinations or something or other, right? It's the latest Anthony Bourdain series, which was really brilliant, in fact. He himself had a heroin problem when he was younger, right? He overcame it, and he said many of his friends didn't survive. A lot of chefs, high-pressure chefs, obviously turn to alcohol, drugs, and so forth. But however, the episode that he filmed, he went to, I guess, Middle America, right? Small town America, and just looked at the drug problem there, looked at the food, he still looks at the food, but he also spoke about people that had the drug problem now, with heroin specifically, and other substances. And he goes, well, what happened? And he speaks to doctors of that small community, and they said, well, years ago, 4, 5, 6, 10 years ago, we were told to prescribe painkillers for everything. Our first duty was to eliminate pain. That's what the doctor said, right, to him in this interview, right, face to face. And so they kept prescribing it. Now, of course, once the injuries healed or whatever, the people that have been taking the painkiller, and it might have been anything, hillbilly heroin, which is oh, the name escapes me, but it's a very powerful painkiller, right?
Yes.
It's Oxycontin. That's it, Oxycontin. It's no longer available to them. So what do? They go to the next best thing, which is heroin, right? So this is happening in America right now. The overprescription of painkillers has created a middle-class American drug addiction that is starting in high schools, high school children. Okay, in some instances even earlier, a primary school. I don't know what you call it in the States.
Elementary school.
But elementary school. There you go. Thank you, Dave. So this is a problem that is in existence right now that was created by the medical establishment, right? So, and if you have this drugged population, it is a lot easier to control. Brave New World was essentially built around that. You know, the Borg, in fact, of Star Trek fame, they are all drugged.
Yep.
The Borg all have a permanent injection of, I think it's called the white or something, right?
That's
that
right.
they
that's
use to keep them in perfect control. Yeah.
It does go further than that, but you know, it's an extraordinary thing. All I can say is that I think we've hit that point again, in that it's now being accepted in New South Wales, just where I live. The state that I live in has just announced the trial for medical marijuana, and 5 minutes ago they were against it, flatly against everything. But I think what they see is the drop of the black market, bankrupts the black market. You know, if you can sell it for cheaper than, you know, like, especially in America. What about the news this week about Cuba? You know, I can't believe that they were doing all this stuff.
Yeah. They're finally getting an embassy back into Cuba.
Exactly,
States.
and they also
amazing.
said, this is the big thing for all of you who wear tinfoil hats. I almost said the wrong word then because I don't want to belittle our audience, but part of that deal was to put communications facilities at that location in Cuba, so communications companies would be able to open their doors to that market. And what happens when you have a communications facilities? You have mobile phone reception. You have monitoring systems, and it goes on. Mackie, what's number 7 on our top 10?
Number 7 is something we're actually going to spend some time with in the next week's show because we're rapidly running out of time. So this is military testing. We've assembled some information for you in some detail, but essentially the military has a long history, and this is not just the U.S. military. This is the military everywhere, specifically in Nazi Germany, and they have a long history as the testing ground for mind control. Obviously, you want to break down that soldier and build him or her anew. The military mind is perhaps the most malleable. Okay, as those who pursue life in the military generally resonate to the structures of hierarchy, control, and the need for unchallenged obedience to a mission. It makes sense, right? In the military, you get an order and you do it. There's no debate, there's no question, there's no democracy. Oh, attack. Oh, I don't know, we should take a vote. It's not going to happen, it's got your shot. Okay? For the increasing number of military personnel questioning their indoctrination, a recent story highlighted DARPA's plans for transcranial mind control helmets that will keep them focused.
Wow.
Okay, so there's a link, of course, in our show notes to that. You go, what? Really? Now, again, you know, we're moving into because what you want is a super soldier. You really want a super soldier that does exactly what you want him or her to do.
Yeah.
No ethics, no qualms, no morality interfering.
No decision-making process. Look at RoboCop's movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a mind bender. All right. Number 8 in our top 10 of mind control techniques. This is electromagnetic spectrum, and we all know we're surrounded by it. Find electromagnetic spectrum maps of your town. They're available online. An electromagnetic soup envelops all of us, charged by modern devices of convenience. Of course, convenience is the operative word, which have been shown to have a direct impact on brain function. In a tacit admission of what is possible, one researcher has been working on with a God helmet to induce visions of altering the electromagnetic field of the brain. Wide range of possibilities.
Play video games, right? And if I was away from it, I felt disoriented. I felt headaches. I felt not right. I closed my eyes and I would see the images of the game in front of my closed eyes. Okay, and you feel all strange, and you needed to get your fix again. You wanted to play more and more and more, and it was a true form of addiction. Now, a study of video games has revealed that extended play can result in lower blood flow to the brain, sapping emotional control. There are cases specifically in Korea and Japan. Korea has actually made a national sport out of video gaming, where people have died in their seat playing games because they forgot to eat, they forgot to drink, they forgot to go to the bathroom. You think I'm joking?
No.
This actually happened, guys. Furthermore, role-playing games of life like war and police state scenarios, now World of Warcraft, I don't want to single anyone out here, all the same, serve to desensitize a connection to reality. Okay, if you look at warfare today, pilots or even remote-controlled drones, it's like a video game. I'm not really killing anyone, it's a game.
That's right.
No, it's not.
Do you remember, Meki, that the US military were making a game so that their recruits would understand the recoil sound and be able to identify the sound of a weapon based on the video game accuracy?
Yes.
Even the recoil of the weapon. So these IT techie people who would go, I'm going in the army because I can't do anything else, were already programmed to understand and identify every weapon on the field.
Completely. And just have a look at the WikiLeaks video, Collateral Murder. Again, link is in the show notes, guys. And you know, it'll be familiar to you if you've seen in like a game like a Call of Duty or something like that. Yep. Now, number 10.
Number 10, nanobots. From science fiction horror directly to the modern brain, the nanobots are on the way. Direct brain modification already has been packaged as neuroengineering. This is from an article in Wired from early 2009, highlighting that direct brain manipulation via fiber optics is a bit messy, but once installed, it could make someone happy with the press of a button. I want that, Meki. I want it right now. Nanobots.
I'll give it to you.
Thanks. There'll be a small external annex to the show where we film me getting fiber optics inserted in my nose. Nanobots take the process to an automated level, rewiring the brain molecule by molecule. Worse, these mini droids can self-replicate, forcing one to wonder how this genie would ever get back into the bottle once unleashed. Expect data of arrival early 2020s. Well, there'll be a huge impact by then. It won't matter. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, guys, these are the. If you can think of other forms of mind control, we'd be more than happy to share it with the wider audience. And oh God, you could kid me. That's the music already. Far out. Next week, CIA mind control programs. We're going to talk about Montauk.
Oh, that's my favorite. You know what? And I think we might even have a guest on. I think we might have Solaris on next week.
That'd
with her psychotronic experiences. Take care. We'll see you next week for show 148. And if you're catching this on YouTube, don't push the skip button on the ad. Take care.
Bye.